Welcome to those that have decided that they need to harness the power of asking for help. So I will go through some things that have helped me to ask for help to achieve greater success. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we will look at what we can do differently to have greater success and leverage of those who have been before us. So if we look at saying, you know, there's times in our life where we really can't go alone. Sometimes people say, you know, it's being weak. Sometimes people say it's, you know, they like to have control. You're letting go of control if you're asking for help. You know, some people really want to be perfectionists and don't like asking for help because they want to make sure that everything that they do is perfect. And also sometimes people feel ashamed. They feel ashamed that they actually have to ask for help because they feel that, you know, they should be able to sort their own things out. For whatever reason it is, you know, whatever you're feeling, whether it's losing control or losing, you know, face, I'd really like to share with you some of the things that have really been instrumental in my success and achievement and happiness through actually just, you know, letting go and accepting that you can't do everything, and that sometimes in life we need to actually ask for help. That's just, you know, what we have to do. So, you know, it's actually okay not to be okay. You know, sometimes the idea of letting control, you know, is you know, equates to not being capable. Well, it's definitely the reverse. If you've ever read any of Brené Brown's books, she talks about vulnerability and how being vulnerable can have a huge impact on trust and on other people, you know, being trusted to share that with you and the difference it makes with them. So the general, you know, the generalized belief is that, you know, we must be independent often and pull ourselves together, but it's actually, it's okay not to be okay. In, you know, with my own experience, when my husband had, you know, a horrific accident and, you know, was, you know, we had a house fire and his body was severely burnt, I couldn't have got through what I went through by myself. We needed to have help from a lot of people. If, you know, if there's, you know, a journey that you're about to embark on that you've never been on before, it's really important to leverage and get the help of those around us that we need to actually get through. And there's no way in the world I would have got through what we went through the first year after the house fire and where my husband got severely burnt in hospital, in and out of hospital all the time. We wouldn't have got through unless we had the help of others. We needed the help of family, we needed the help of professionals, we needed the help of support people. And that's just part of life. And, you know, I really want you to be released from that, you know, that, I suppose, pressure of saying you have to do it yourself. I really want you to be okay with saying, I'm not okay. I'm actually struggling here right now and I need some help. I need to offload some things and I need to have some help. So I just want you to remember that it is okay not to be okay. So if you're having a tough day, it's all right to say, I'm drowning today. I really need somebody to help me. I'm drowning. Who can help me? And then, you know, putting your hand out for those that are qualified to help you, paid or unpaid, family, you know, love jobs, not love jobs, family, friends, whatever is appropriate. So, you know, when we're going through anything, you know, in life, we don't know everything. We can't know everything. It's not possible to know everything. We don't know what we don't know. In my book, you might have looked, at the different quadrants of learning. Whatever it is in life we start off on that first quadrant where we don't know what we don't know. And then we go to that next quadrant of, I know that there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And then we go to the next quadrant where we know what we do know. So it goes around through each one. So we always have to start off with that quadrant of we don't know. And then we find out there's all this stuff that we need to know that we don't know. So, we need to accept that we don't know everything, and that we do have to, look at, all right, well, what can we do? What can we do to get some help? About the time we hit puberty, and start to gain a bit more independence. Often teenagers, they suddenly think they know everything. They suddenly think they've got the hang of life, and that they actually don't need help anymore because they've gone from childhood to teenagehood. Having had teenagers myself, I very much remember the period that they went through when they knew everything. But then once they became adults, they realised that they didn't. Sometimes this feeling of knowing everything comes in ebbs and flows through our life, on different spectrums. But when we're looking at actually growing in any particular area, we do need to get further knowledge. We can't know everything. We do need to be investigating, well, what else do we need to know? For those of us that like to be identified as control freaks or perfectionists or A-type personalities, the feeling of knowing everything, it might be a bit more prevalent, but that's something that I would urge you to work on, because you will know more by accepting that you don't know everything, and by accepting that you need to look at different ways to get help. There is, at the moment that we live in, the world we live in, there is so much help available to us with YouTubes, with the internet, with courses. There is so much availability out there for us to learn and gain knowledge with different areas that we're wanting to improve in. But personally, I feel that really sometimes there is no substitute for a real person. So we can read as many books and we can watch as many YouTubes, but that substitute of having a real person to mentor us or to help us or coach us or guide us through an experience is absolutely wonderful. It really makes that heart connection, it makes it so much easier to actually achieve what we want to achieve if we have a real human being that we know, like, and trust, that can help us go through that journey. Many years ago, we didn't have the internet, so it was always you would go to somebody you knew in your community or in your family to help. But so often people just think, I'll do it myself, I'll do an internet course, or I'll read up on that, and not actually have that human connection. But I think having the human connection can be very, very empowering, not only for you, but also for them, to go through that journey of actually helping somebody achieve something that they've already achieved. And, that was the number one reason that, I wrote my story and wrote my book about our massive challenges that we've had in our life and paralleled them with the business. The sole purpose is to help other people. For the people that were too scared to put their hand up to ask somebody else, that were comfortable enough to look for help in a book, because that's how we learn. We learn from other people going through the same journey as us, and then looking at saying, well, how can we learn from their experience? And then having that person-to-person connection is so much more enriching, and for both parties, it's so much more powerful. So I would urge you not to just go with the internet. And I would urge you to speak to real people and get real people's feedback and real people's connection at whatever it is that you're really passionate about achieving in your business or in your life. Some people say that asking for help can chip away at your pride, and it can question your skills and your expertise. And it sometimes can create anxiety for people. But, it doesn't have to appear weak. By asking for help, we actually create better results because we can't see our golf swing. We can't see what other people see. So by enlisting the advice or the help or the mentoring or the guidance of a friend or a colleague or a family member or an associate who has experienced a similar path that you're on now, will give you a perspective that you can never get yourself, because they will give it from the outsider's perspective. They'll also give it from their perspective too. So please don't feel that your pride has to be chipped away. You're actually, you're gaining knowledge, you're helping yourself, and you're also making the other person feel very enriched from their experience, then going on to help you in your experience and whatever it is that whatever challenge or whatever path you're on at that particular moment. So please remember that it does create better results for you, and it definitely not seen as being weak. So, what happens, and I see it time and time again with a lot of people, is they get burnout as a consequence of not asking for help. They get this total burnout by what they do is they don't ask for help. And so what happens is they just, and I actually, weirdly enough, I was just in a workshop now with some people who were talking about working 14-hour days. Now, if you continually work 14-hour days, you're going to get burnout. So what's going to happen is you're going to get mental burnout. You're going to have stress levels are going to be through the roof. You're going to feel overwhelmed. Decision making is really hard. And also often people find they don't sleep well. And also they often, it gets affected in the hormones. And also sometimes people drink more when they're increasing this amount of time they work and getting to that burnout level. So it's not actually good for anybody to try and as I said, this meeting I've just had this morning with these guys that are working 14-hour days, we looked at changing the model and saying the work that they were doing at night, because they weren't asking for help, we could use subcontractors for looking at taking over the work that over 2 days, and the work they were doing at night they could do on those 2 days. The bottom line actually didn't look much different at all, and they were overwhelmed with joy just by asking for help that they could actually get their life back. But because they thought that they had to do everything and it looked like they're both at exhaustion point, like there's no point. So just by looking at saying, okay, what's working, what's not working, I'm at exhaustion point, I need help, going in and getting the right help and then rejigging the model so that you're actually looking after yourself as number one. So it's about having a better model. It's about having a better life and getting the best out of life, not just trying to just be 100 miles an hour every single day to try and fix everybody. It's not actually possible. So please don't get into that trap of trying to just do everything yourself and not ask for help, because you will get to burnout, and that's not good. And the health consequences are terrible. It's really part of self-care. That's what it is. It's really part of self-care, putting yourself first and putting your pride aside. It basically demonstrates that it's in your best interest to have someone else come in and take some of that load off you. And if you've got a team, it's a great example to them to show, okay, it's okay to say, I've got far too much on my plate right now. How can I enlist the help of someone who's better at this than me to take some off? So it's a great way to demonstrate to your team that you can be honest and authentic, and you don't have to be able to do everything, that you have to look after yourself as number one. You're the most important vehicle in your life. is your mind and your body. And if you're not looking after that by trying to, have the foot on the pedal the whole time, well, you're actually not going to be working at the optimal level that you'd like to work at. So by looking after yourself and actually asking for help, it's going to make a huge difference, because you can't do everything on your own. It's not possible. And I remember, I think it was Henry Ford who said he always made sure that he employed people who were far, far more skilled in different areas than him. So when we look at whatever we have in our business, or whatever we have going on in our calendar, what are the things that we're really not very good at, and that we really don't like doing? So they're the things that we need to look at, saying, all right, who else can I get to do them in my team, as an outsider, as a contractor, in my family? Who else is good at that? Who's got that skill? And for hiring and for picking people who are good at those skills, I often use DISC profiling, personality profiling, to work out who's got that natural skill to do that particular thing. And then that way you're keeping the things that you're really good at, and you're offloading the things that you're not as good at or not very passionate about. But it's really part of your self-care. Working 14 hours a day, trying to go with the foot on the pedal the whole time, is not going to be very beneficial to anybody, not to your friends, your family, your team. It's just not going to be good for anybody. So there's no point in having lots of money in the bank if you don't have your health or your mental stability. The other thing that I think is important to look at is it gains a different perspective. It really gains a totally different perspective by enlisting help of others to help you achieve your goals. So besides taking the pressure off yourself, asking for help, it helps you gain that other side of perspective, whether it's asking someone to help you with a project, whether it's asking, say, a therapist or a coach to help you get a different insight on something, whether it's helping people work with capacity, or whether you're stuck in a rut and you just need to break out. So having the different perspective on whatever it is you're working on is a perspective that you can't ever see yourself. It's not possible. And, when David and I looked at starting our business, it was interesting because, we were looking at renting properties, and we were out there looking at renting properties. And, my father said, from a different perspective, he was like, and he'd been in business a very long time, said, have you looked at buying? Because, I think that, buying opposed to renting might be, a different option. And I was like, wow, I'd never thought of that. So did some research and found that buying a property for our business, a small property, was no different to renting. Now, I'd never thought of that because I just thought people rented. But when I did the research, I found that was better. And funnily enough, 15 years later, when we sold the business, we made just as much profit from the building as we did off the business. So I'd enlisted the help of someone who'd been on the road before me, who knew more about that than I, and got their perspective on the situation. So it was a total game changer from just a small conversation of saying, I'm new into business, I'm looking at a premise, what are my options? So simple things like that can be really instrumental in success and, in making a difference. Delegating is another thing which I think is really important when you've got a team of people. Delegating is a common task that business owners are often afraid to do. They're often very afraid to delegate to different team members and to new team members because they feel that, oh, they can't do it as well as me, they can't do it as quick as me. But the thing is that if you don't start to delegate to them, they're never going to. And, I recently did a coaching workshop with a bunch of senior managers that they really were not delegating. They were just basically managing their people and telling them and showing them, or doing it themselves. So what we needed to do is we needed to get them to hone their coaching skills, to look at their team and say, okay, how can you delegate more with the people that you have in your team? Because at the moment, they're just doing it for them or telling them how to do it. They're not actually delegating the responsibility of whatever it is. So having a look at your calendar, having a look at your goals and saying, okay, who can I actually delegate this task onto in my team that is better, that can take it for a very long time, and that it's something that you don't have to do. There, you know, in the book where we talk about getting the book called Getting Things Done, it talks about looking at saying, okay, if you've got all these things you want to achieve, you know, can it be done in 2 minutes? No, it can't. Can I delegate it? So everything that you're looking at is overwhelming you. Can it be delegated? Yes or no? Or can it be deferred? Or can it be diarised? So we're looking at the D's. Or does it need to be dumped? So that we're actually looking at saying, how many of these things do I have on my to-do list or on my project list that I can actually delegate? And if we've got nobody to delegate it to, you know, I've often seen people going to places like Fiverr and Elance and that, and putting projects out and saying, right, this is a research project, or this is something I need drawn up. Let's just get someone on Fiverr to do it for me, and we'll just delegate it, give them the deadline, and get them to do it. So making sure that you're utilising the areas that you're not good at to be able to delegate and utilise that time for things that you are really good at, so that you're focusing on what you're really good at, not what you're not good at. That's the crux here, is get the delegating done of all the things that you don't want to do, and you focus on the things that only you can do, the things that you're really good at. So it might be that you're really good at having the key relationships with your top clients. Well, keep them. They're really good. But you don't need to be reconciling the accounts, or you don't need to be sending an invoice out, or you can teach somebody to quote, or you can get somebody else to clean the house or do the washing, or you can do a roster with picking up the kids. You don't need to do everything. And I think part of one of the keys to delegating as well is getting that clarity of your values, so that you don't have a conflict. And that was one that I did definitely have as a business owner when I had small children, is it would often be that conflict of, do I do the thing with the kids, or do I go to the client? Which one's more important? And whichever one I did, I felt bad because I'd let the other one down. But once I got clear on my values, that my kids were most important, then there was not a value battle in my head. There wasn't a conflict battle. The kids came first, and my husband had the clients. He looked after the clients came first. And if there was a conflict, people understand. If I say, sorry, I can't make that meeting, it's my kids' sports day and I really want to go, can we reschedule? They don't mind. They really don't mind. Or I can delegate the meeting for somebody else who's just as you know, as skilled in that area as I was. So just be mindful of what is it that you can delegate in your schedule that will just lift the load off you, and then that way it frees you up to do the things that only you can do. The thing is as well, when we look at delegating and we look at asking for help, it really makes a difference to the people around you. It really builds them up. You know, the law of reciprocity, you might have heard of the law of reciprocity, which is, you know, Zig Ziglar said it really well. If you help enough other people get what they want, you get what you want. So asking people for help, it's a way to show people that you trust them. It's a way to show people that you really feel that their skills are competent. It really makes them feel that you appreciate and value their advice. So asking people for help, you actually have the power to show people around you that you value their talent, that you value their skills, and will help you build connections with the community, and it will help you get social currency as well. So by asking people for help, you're really building that trust and that connection with them, and it's really making them feel good. I mean, how wonderful does it feel when you help somebody? It feels great. I love helping people. So when you help someone, not only is it helping you, but it's also making them feel amazing, because you've actually given them the opportunity to show them how good you are, and you've actually given them the opportunity to feel good and to help. You know, a small example, I love babies. I'm a bit of a baby whisperer. And, you know, I had a client that was really struggling with a newborn, and they were trying to juggle everything. And I said, look, anytime on the weekend, I'm happy to cuddle the baby. It would be an absolute delight for me. And this person wasn't getting any sleep or anything. And they called me on it. They said, yes, I've got this big thing on Sunday and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I need to get some sleep and I need to get this thing done. I said, right, give me the baby for the day. I'd love that. And I had such joy at sharing my Sunday with a newborn 6-week-old baby for the Sunday, but I had such joy in knowing that the business owner could just focus on what they wanted to achieve that day and get the project done. And they were so grateful, and it built such a trust that they trusted me to look after their newborn and that they got a release for the day. So, you know, it didn't show that she was weak. And the gift, I felt like I was gifted by them trusting me and by me giving her the gift of having the day to work on the project that she wanted to work on. So, you know, often people, you know, they feel this insecurity and this fear inside by asking someone for help, but you're actually building them up. You're actually really doing them a favor by saying, hey, I think you're amazing at this. I really would love you to do it, and I would really love your help. So I think that's something that's often overlooked when people are too scared to ask for help. Also, you know, this metaphor, you know, of what's the wax and what's the flame is something, you know, you could also relate it to what are the big rocks. So every day there's things, you know, that are considered your wax. They're just the basic things that need to be there, that, you know, the dishes and, you know, driving and brushing your teeth and things like that. You know, everyone's got their you know, basic things that they have to do. But each day we also hopefully have time to be able to do the things that are your flame. These are the things that really make you shine. These are the things that you're really, really good at. So often, sometimes people haven't actually defined, you know, what are the big rocks, or what are the flame things that you love doing, or what's the boring wax things that you have to do. And look at saying, all right, well, how can I make sure that I really put my flame things as number one, because they're the things that I shine in. They're the things that I'm really skilled at and that I really love doing. And so my recommendation is get them in your calendar at the beginning of the week. Get them in and lock them in, because they're the things that you're really, really, you know, at your best. And then the other things, all the small rocks around, or using that flame and wax metaphor, all the wax, well, then we can have that as second priority, or that can be used to enlist help. You know, I had a business owner once that had debtors. People owed him money over $300,000. And he had a wife sitting at home doing nothing, that was desperate to be part of the business. And he had no one following up on his debtors. And I said, who have you got in your life that really would love a bit of meaning, that would really be happy to help? And he was like, I don't know. And I'm like, do you have anyone that you can think of? And then eventually he said, oh, my wife's at home. She's always asking to come in and help. So within 3 months, you got those debtors down to under 20, I think it was under 20K. Now, he asked for help, and oh my God, it made her feel amazing. She loved coming into work. She loved being part of the team, and she really contributed. Now, he'd been running that business for years, never asked her. She'd always been a homemaker with the children, never asked for her help. Changed her perspective on life, made her feel amazing, made her feel valued, made her feel contributed. And all those years, he'd been too scared to ask somebody to delegate the debtors to just look after them. So what are your flame activities? Where do you really shine? What are your big rocks? And lock them in your calendar. And all of the rest, all the little bits of sand and water, or if you want to call them wax, what are the ones that you want to just get rid of, or just pop in between? But just make sure that if there's other people around that are better or could do it, get them to do it. There's no point in you doing it at all. You know, it really is a two-way street, because what happens is when, you know, that desire to repay people or to repay help appears to be hard. It's basically hardwired as a human trait. So if you have somebody that helps you, then that law of reciprocity comes in. It's so powerful that you generally will want to help them as well. So if someone's helped you out in a situation, you know, when COVID hit and I had to move my office to my home, I'd had some guys that I'd helped with their business plan because they were an event company and they'd been closed overnight. And I helped them with a bit of business planning, and they had no income, so I didn't charge them. It was the least I could do. And then when COVID hit and I had to move my office, they were like, we'd love to help. And it was so weird because it had just come straight back at me. I'd help them and then they were desperate to help me. So it is very much a two-way street, and that's how asking for help can really enrich your community, because you help somebody, then they want to help you, and then somebody else wants to help. If it's in a situation where they're not part of your team, it's not a delegation thing, it's actually a community thing where they're all just helping. So, you know, be aware that it's not just all about you. It does happen both ways, and then it has that ripple effect, and it happens back and forth. And, you know, somebody wants some help in this area or wants to be referred to someone, and then someone else tells them how you help them, and then it just goes on and on. So, you know, it's one to be aware of, that it's not you, it's creating an effect that can make a really big difference in a community if you start to really look at, okay, who would like to help? Who is it going to make a difference to help with this? You know, I know, you know, my mum loves to help out, and sometimes it's like, oh, do I really want, you know, she might not be quick enough, but if it's something that doesn't need speed because she's elderly, fine, I'll get her help. And it really makes her feel amazing, because she thinks, you know, 84, she's still contributing, she's still helping, which is brilliant, because I'm actually giving to her more by asking for help, by thinking, hey, you know, I value her. So just remember that two-way street thing is really important. You know, this, the norm of reciprocity, it also yields a lot of psychological benefits for those that are reaching out. It's much easier to reconcile asking for help when you yourself have been helpful. So if you've already built a reputation as someone who helps others, others will naturally want to help you. But, you know, sometimes these effects of reciprocity can sometimes be short-lived. You have to, you know, make sure that it's a continual part of your values to regularly live the law of reciprocity, to regularly be looking at saying, okay, how can I help the people in my community? Because, you know, this is something that I want to create. I want to create an environment, whether it's within my family, whether it's in my neighborhood, whether it's in my team at work, of people that I can be known to be relied on. And I'm happy to ask for help, but I'm also very happy to help other people if it's humanly possible. I mean, you know, we used to have a trailer for many years, and I would happily lend it to anybody in the neighbourhood, and I was known for happily lending it, and then people would, you know, come back with, you know, a bag of tomatoes, or here's some firewood or whatever, thanks for lending the trailer. So just small things like that make a really huge difference. But the law of reciprocity is something that the psychological benefits of living that way can make a huge difference and make an impact when you really need help, because you lived that way for so long. When you really need help, people are happy to step up. I mean, I used to often, you know, when we had kids going to school, put my hand out to say, oh, you know, I'll have, you know, Johnny come over and have a play after school today, and, you know, I'm happy, don't want anything from it. And then, you know, a week later I'm stuck in a meeting, and lo and behold, I have to call on that person to help me, and they don't mind, because I've put enough in the emotional bank account, so that it's fine to ask for help. Whereas if you're somebody who's never helped anybody, or never actually put your hand out for help, it's quite hard to actually ask for help. So for you, it might be that to change your mindset, if you're not comfortable with asking for help or have never asked for help before, it may be that you could start to say, oh, well, I'm going to look at how I can help other people. and see how much gratitude you get from helping people. And then when you do need help, you're not so scared to help, to ask for help, and you know how wonderful it is to feel to actually help someone make a difference, because you will have experienced it yourself. So that may be the first step. Another thing to look at is, how you're actually asking for help. It does matter. So, when asking for help, it might make sense in your mind that you're trying to show that your value to the other person's opinion or skills, but you have to make sure that the words you're conveying as well. So always being humble and always trying to pay compliments. So, as an example, I know, if you're looking at, say, a team member, you might say, look, I know that you've got, a really big to-do list today as well. I know we're on a tight schedule, but, you're much better at Excel than I am. So I would really love you, if it's possible, to, spend some time to look at this document, because, you're much better and quicker at it than me. So, having that humility in the delivery when you are actually asking for help makes a huge difference, because you are asking somebody to give you some of their time. So it's important to have that humility. When we're asking for help, communication and clarity of communication is important too. So having SMART goals is making things a lot clearer. So if we're asking somebody for help, I mean, I've got a friend who helps me out, with my computer sometimes. So, saying, oh, I'd love some help with my computer, that doesn't actually tell them anything. But if I'm saying, look, I've really got this problem with my computer, do you have time to help me get it fixed? I really need to have it fixed by Friday at 4 o'clock because I've got a big presentation on Saturday, so I need it to be done by then. Is that possible? So when we're looking at having a SMART goal, it means there's no miscommunication in you asking for this help. So if we're saying, we're wanting it to be, when we talk about SMART, the acronym is, it needs to be specific. So exactly what the outcome is that you want them to actually achieve for you. Can you pick up, Johnny from school at 3 o'clock on this date or whatever, and look after him for an hour? So if you say, can you pick up Johnny from school, someone might go, yeah, I can. But we haven't said if you're looking after him, we haven't said where you're dropping him off afterwards, etc. So using the SMART acronym, we want to be very specific in our request. We really want to know what's the measurement. Is it time? Is there some kind of, address or some kind of measurement that we need to measure? Is it achievable by them? So is it something they can humanly do? Well, they might say, look, no, I'm not going to be picking up my child from school at that time, so I can't. It needs to be realistic and have a time frame, so and relevant as well. So we really want to make sure that if we're asking people to help, paid or unpaid, either way we need to be specific. We need to be very clear on the help. Even if it's not paid, we need to be clear on the help that we actually need. I'm moving my office on this day at 3 o'clock. I'd love to have your muscles to help me. Is that available? I'll need them for 2 hours. Is that okay to give me a couple of hours of your time? So then that way there's no miscommunications, because the last thing you want to do is ask someone for help, whether it's paid or not paid, and then have a mismatch, and then they feel like you've let them down or they've let you down, and it's just a bit uncomfortable. The same with if you're looking at getting maybe someone, some contractor to do something. Again, it has to be very specific what you're actually asking for, and we need to be clear of what you want to achieve. What does success look like afterwards? So that then we don't have, I recently asked a client, we were talking about their marketing, and we wanted to get a bit of a marketing audit. So they asked somebody to do a marketing audit. They came back with half a page. Now, that was their interpretation of a marketing audit. But what we could have done is we could have said, we'd like you to have a look across all different mediums and have a look if our branding is streamlined. We'd like you to have a look at how many likes we've got, how many followers we've got, how many hits we've got. I'd like you to have a look at our website, what our bounce rate is. We could have got more specific, but we just wanted to see what this person's interpretation was of what that question was. So the answer they gave us was very, very different to what we would have expected, but we wanted to see what their level of knowledge was like in that area. So making sure we be very clear on what the outcome is if we are actually asking for some kind of assistance. Please don't assume you know what people know. Sometimes we get stuck in a mindset that a task is very simple, and if we can't solve it, no one else can solve it. So we need to basically look at thinking that people don't know the same as what we know. So we can't ever assume that they are in the same knowledge space as you. And the thing is there is so much about people that we don't know that they know. So they have hidden talents that we don't know. So you might not know that the person that is your next door neighbour is also very skilled in a particular program. You might not know that somebody has got a previous degree in psychology. So we don't know different skills that people have. So it's really important not to assume that they know the same as you. So when you begin asking for help, you have no idea where the road will lead, and don't make any assumptions that you think you know everything that they know. Don't. Even if someone can't help you directly, they can often put you in the right direction, or they can often hand you to somebody who they know who does have the skills to help you in a particular area. I have a lot of people as a business coach that contact me asking, you know, do you know somebody who's an expert in this program, or do you know someone who is an expert in this particular area? And, you know, if I've got somebody who I know is an expert in that area, I will happily hand them on to them. But it's not that I'm expected to know that. No, that's fine. But it's happy to pass them on to the next person. So please, when asking for help, don't assume that you know all of their skills, because you won't. People have so many hidden skills that we don't know about, and hidden areas and hidden talents that we might be able to potentially uncover and give them a real boost that they didn't think that they would actually have, because no one had ever asked them about that before. So in essence, what we're actually doing is we're creating a positive culture. That's what we're doing, and that's what this is all about. By asking for help, we're creating a positive culture. As human beings, we're social beings. We crave a sense of community. The basis of an effective community involves teamwork. That's what it does. And people helping one another out is part of that teamwork. So whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in your social circle, encourage a culture where asking for help isn't looked down upon. It's actually encouraged. So begin offering assistance and opening help, and openly asking for help and offering assistance whenever it's actually possible, remembering not to overcommit yourself. You don't have to say yes to everybody. It's not a given. But just change that culture, you know, change it into a community culture. You know, and it's funny, when we first started our business, my husband and myself, and we were looking to find our own space. This was before we bought our little building that we worked out of. I was looking around for somewhere to house our business, and my father, he had a spare office in his building in Subiaco, and he said, oh, I'm happy to give you a room here rent-free for the first year to give you a help up. Now, I see so many small business owners that will rent like huge warehouses that they're hardly using, you know, a third of, because they have to do it by themselves, and they're starting a business and they've got this massive rent, where if they had to put their hand up and asked their community who's got some spare office space that would like a little bit of extra rent, that I can start my business out for the first year from that section, it would have made a huge difference. And that person would have felt like they were contributing to a small business owner, to a startup, and that person who was receiving the help was going to get a lot less commitment of expenses. They're not tied into a 5-year lease, and it makes a huge difference. So often in business, people will really be happy to help because they've been there before. They've been on that road before, and they're very happy to help. So it can make a difference in the actual success of a business by letting other people actually help in that process. So every president also has a team of advisors. Now, you know, when we look at people, so we're beginning to reach, you know, people in our community who see us just for a face level. So they might see you as this really busy, really successful person. But just remember that when we look at these people that are very busy and very successful, they often have about 3 or 4 or 5 other people behind them helping them. They're not doing it all themselves. And if they are, they'll be killing themselves in the meantime trying to do it. So often people will compare themselves to people very successful that are doing everything themselves, but they're probably not. They normally have a team of people behind the scenes that are helping them along the way, that are the specialist in each different area, so that they're just the front, they're just the figure or the head of whatever it is that they're organising, but they're having to rely on a lot of people to get them to that. They're having to rely on a lot of people's skills to make sure that they leverage off those skills to give them the success that they're actually getting. So remembering it's not generally just all them, that they are actually part of a really big team. So, you know, when we think about not asking for help, you know, what harm do people do by actually not asking for help? So if you're not, if you don't actively want to learn from others, you're actually not allowing yourself to grow as a person, because you're not actually pushing past your own beliefs, your own knowledge, and your own boundaries of your own skills. So by not asking for help, you're actually harming yourself, because you're just trying to achieve what you want within your own knowledge and your own skill set. So if you're not getting to know the skills and the talents of those around you, you know, you're not as well connected as you could actually be. You're actually self-sabotaging your own success by not utilising the skills of the community, your team, your family, the people that you have actually around you, because it can really have your growth unlimited. It can be very expansive by actually opening it out to whoever's in your community, to sharing and growing in your knowledge, your skills, your perspective, and then it can really take you up to the next level. There's always a price to pay when you don't ask for help. So when you don't ask for help, there is less social connection. You're being less vulnerable. You know, and it's funny, you know, I've done workshops with organisations where we've talked about culture. And when we've had some honest feedback and honest conversations and people have been very vulnerable, the biggest feedback I've got is people really loved seeing that vulnerability. They love seeing that human side. It really brought trust and compassion and a deeper connection and understanding with the team. And I'm talking about these are teams where people have worked together. And every time I've seen people be vulnerable, I mean, I saw through COVID, my business owners sit down and sob in front of their team. And they felt, when they talked about it with me afterwards, there was this negative Nelly of saying, gosh, I was weak because I broke down in front of the team, but their team loved them and respected them and really pulled together so much more because of that. They saw the vulnerability. They saw them saying, hey guys, I need some help. We've got to get through this COVID thing as a team. We really need to work out how we're going to get through this. So, you know, there is a price to pay if you have those guards up all the time and you don't let them down and you don't let other people in and you don't be vulnerable. Basically, price is lost time, lack of productivity. There's more mistakes and more failures if you just rely on yourself all the time and if you just put yourself under pressure all the time, and that lack of growth and the lack of people having that depth of connection with you. There's a greater connection with people when you let them in, when you be vulnerable, when you ask for help, when you connect with them. And as human beings, the more people that we have that trust and connection to, the happier we are, the more wholesome, the more wholehearted we feel. And it just makes a huge difference. So there is a big price to pay if we don't ask for help. The root of asking for this help, it's really built on the foundation of having support. It's having a support system in your life that you can count on, that's extremely beneficial for your mental state, for your overall well-being, and for your physical state. You know, how different, you know, how would your life be different if you had this mutual sense of reciprocity with those around you? And I have a lot of it in my community that I've built over years. There is a lot of people who are happy to put their hand up to help, and there's others who are happy to accept the help. And I just see the joy in both sides just as much as each other. You know, if you could call someone and ask them for a favour, or walk up to a co-worker and get their advice, you know, and feel vulnerable and feared with somebody, it really gives them that connection, that you have that trust with them, that you will always make them feel better for asking for that help. It's that gift. The gift in asking, that you're actually giving them, that gift of trust that you're giving them. So, you know, having that community and support can make a huge difference to your life with starting to have that law of reciprocity community around you. And you'll be, you know, a lot happier for it, much happier. So I hope that's helped. And I hope there's some parts of your life that you're now going to think, well, I need to start to, you know, look at asking for help, not just be the helper, and being a bit more vulnerable, and building that community. And if you're a person that always helps everybody else and never accepts help yourself, maybe you need to be the one who's accepting more help. Or if you never help other people, maybe you need to balance that out and start to put your hand out to help more people and build that balanced community that helps everybody, so that we're all feeling a lot more connected and a lot more community based, utilising the skills in our community that will make the community a more solid and trusting place to be part of. So I hope that helps, and I hope it gives you a different perspective on things, and that I can guarantee that if you practice that, you know, over the next few months, that you will be happier and you will be less stressed and a lot more balanced, and the people around you will be happier too. So I will stop sharing my screen and say thank you to all those who've joined, and I hope it's going to make a difference over the next coming time in your life.